What's going on, everybody? This is Dan French. This is Saturday, and we have the wrong date up there. Yeah, Saturday. What's going on, buddy?
And we have the wrong date up there.
And we got the wrong date up there. So what's going on, guys? How you doing today?
Good.
Good. Let's go ahead and get into this. This is every Saturday we do a stream here. So if you guys, this is your first time here, we do a stream on financing real estate, money talk entrepreneurs through on-job experience here in Las Vegas. And as always, you know, we have a full studio, and we have, quite a few people in here. So I want to go over to Rick, talk with Rick here. Rick, what's going on, buddy? How are you?
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. I'm doing good. How about you?
Good. So what's going on, man? How's life?
Man, life is good. Everything is status quo, getting ready for the holidays, doing out some shopping, fighting with people over hot products.
You shopping for Christmas sweaters?
I'm shopping. Hey, check this out. All right?
You still shop?
Oh, yeah, he shops.
I hate shop. Amazon.
Rick representing the Christmas spirit. I love it.
There we go.
That if you believe that there's an actual sense of justice, yeah, throw that out the window.
Have you found?
There's rules, and you have to manipulate those rules.
You have to know the system.
But don't go into a civil lawsuit thinking you're going to get justice.
I got
Hey,
you.
It's about money.
When you go into court, has it been your experience that if either the plaintiff or especially the defendants get emotional in court over something and the judge sees it, recognizes it, that it actually hurts them when they do that?
Absolutely.
Yeah. It's insane
Absolutely.
because,
Really?
when we do evictions and you see the guy, he comes in his, this is, again, 20 years ago, or the lady that brings in 4 kids that are screaming. The judge knows that they're doing this on purpose to pull heartstrings.
So that just enrages them?
It just enrages them. And it's like,
Every judge is different, but I mean, exactly like. Look, if you're gonna
it's
try
like, it's like
they don't want to feel like they're being
if you're
played.
talking like a family law case like that, like you think somebody who's been doing this for 30 years,
like they haven't seen this before?
Yeah, that's the thing, right?
You're the
they
first.
think their case is unique,
Yeah.
right? And
You're
it's
the
kind of
first.
said, I think that for most part, anybody that ends up in litigation, other than like businesses kind of going at it or whatever, which is usually business decisions, although businesses can be just as dumb.
Yeah.
There's a reason you're in litigation, right?
Right.
Like there's not, most people don't get in litigation.
Well, let's-
right? There's a way to handle it, and usually I say do not go in court. Court is like your nuclear
That's like your last
option.
resort. I got you.
Anyhow.
Anyways,
Let's go ahead and introduce our guest here, because
we're a little
we need to
sidetracked.
get.
Sorry, man.
We got a little sidetracked here.
Blame me
So
for that.
we have Mr. Remy Hernandez, Wright Finley Zach law firm, represents credit, real estate, and loan servicing. Right? Is that correct?
That's correct.
All right, man. So hopefully we got all that correct. So what's going on, buddy? So what do you do, and what is your role with these law firms?
So I work at a law firm that represents creditors, and I
bad
represent
guys.
creditors in foreclosures, bankruptcies. I do a lot of federal consumer protection work like RESPA, the Fair Credit Reporting Act, the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act.
Sure.
I also represent credit unions. I do collection work for them, like replevins, like getting vehicles back for them. I also do breach of contract suits. So if it involves real estate
Sure.
or collection work, that's what I do.
What's the foreclosure process like? What options do you have, and those sorts of things? Do you have, any insight on that?
Sure. So I do foreclosures here in Nevada. Basically, Nevada is a non-judicial judicial foreclosure state.
Which means you can sell without going to court, right?
So in some states, you can only sell the property in a foreclosure sale if you file a complaint in court, go to court, file a lawsuit, and the judge gives you an order to foreclose. You can do that here in Nevada, but it's kind of rare. The more typical process is non-judicial foreclosure, where the trustee does a notice of default, and then if you don't cure the default, does a notice of sale, and then the property goes to sale, and then they have the right, the new owner has the right to kick you out of the property or evict you from the property. But there's a process to do that, because when the foreclosure crisis happened in 2008, they created safeguards again for homeowners to make sure that the foreclosure process didn't happen quickly without them having some input.
Sure.
Okay, so in 2009, the state of Nevada passed the foreclosure mediation bill.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's changed. It first started as you had to petition. You had to check off a box and petition with the Supreme Court for foreclosure mediation. Well, they let the foreclosure mediation program sunset, but then they brought it back. And they brought it back and they changed it. So now you actually have to file a petition with your local district court.
Okay.
And then what happens after that is now you have 30 days to do it after you get your notice of default.
Okay.
So you have to elect into it. It's not automatic. So if you don't elect into it, you don't get to go to foreclosure mediation.
Okay.
And so let me take a step back. So in Nevada, to foreclose on a residential property that's owner occupied, and owner occupied means you live there.
Yep.
You have to get what's called a foreclosure mediation certificate. And once you get that certificate, then the trustee can record the notice of sale.
Okay.
So what happens is when you elect into mediation, it stops the certificate process and allows the parties to go through a process where they can resolve the dispute they have or give options. It's not even really a dispute. It's more of it's a chance for the parties to get together and to discuss.
So in the normal foreclosure process, when someone owner doesn't respond here in Nevada, keeping it simple, it's basically 120 days. Is that correct?
Yeah, well, you have a 35-day period for a breach letter.
Okay, and then 120.
You do the notice of default. So it's about 155 days.
Okay.
Like, so when you take out a mortgage, right? You're taking out money and you're paying interest, and that's how they make their money.
Yep.
The people who actually make that money are usually investment pools. Just people who have interest in trust and entity, right? And they're all taking a percentage of all these different loans. That's where the money actually goes to.
Okay.
They don't do anything. They're passive investors. Okay, so the servicer is the person that's just like kind of like Rick does for property management.
Yeah.
Same sort of handling all the loans.
Yeah.
And they don't even know what's going on.
They do all the work, yeah.
Okay, and so I think for the listeners, Remy, correct me if I'm wrong. So, for people who have no idea what we're talking about, from your perspective, you take out a loan to buy a house. Okay, the question then becomes, if I don't pay it, what's the consequences, right? So first thing, Remy, what happens if you don't make your payment on the due date, usually the first of the month?
So if you don't make your payment on the due date, they'll send you a notice of intent to foreclose, an accelerate letter.
And how many days after that?
That's 35 days.
So that's just you've got to miss 3 payments though.
No, it's first.
No, you can miss
the first
one.
payment.
You can miss one, but
Okay.
I think the general rule of thumb is you miss 3 because it's an expensive process.
Well,
They
okay,
don't want to
technically, I
foreclose.
guess.
Yeah.
All right, so
I'm used to seeing 30.
the earliest you miss the payment,
90, sorry.
miss the payment on the first, the earliest you will get notice that's 35 days later that says, which by the way, 35 days means you missed another one, which says, hey, you haven't paid, pay up, right?
No, correction. The first thing they do before they can do a notice of default is they have to send you a 35-day notice to cure.
Right, and that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And how long?
But you won't receive that until
1 to 3
default.
months.
Until you default.
Okay.
1 to 3 months.
Okay.
After you miss a payment.
Okay.
Okay, then once you receive that letter, that's when you can begin loss mitigation process. A lot of people don't even get to the foreclosure mitigation process because they call their lender and go, "Hey, I need a forbearance.
Yeah, how can we work this out?
How can we work this out?
Yep.
Can I get a loan modification? And can I get a short sale or short payoff or whatever?"
But assuming they don't call, you're looking at 1 to 3 months before
Correct.
you get that notice.
Okay.
So that's almost 90 days, and that usually is 90 days, although it could be earlier, right?
Okay.
So then you petition, and how long for mediation?
Okay, so you petition for mediation.
I'm trying to answer your question.
The beneficiary,
I'm trying to lay a timeline.
the
down.
beneficiary or loan servicer has to file an answer. Then a mediator is assigned, and the mediation has to take place within about 90 days from the time.
Okay, so potentially you could take it out another 3 months,
Yes.
90 days.
It's usually in practice.
So from
it's
155, it could go to 245. It could basically end up being close to almost a year.
Yes.
That's correct.
Okay,
And that's the point I was trying to lay it
That's what I
out.
was trying to get to.
If you do nothing, right, Remy? Do nothing. You don't respond to everything. The earliest foreclosure would be what? 8 months?
5 to 6 months.
yeah,
that's about right.
155
If you do
days.
nothing.
If you elect for mediation, which they have to give you,
It could be years.
could be, and that's
Dude,
assuming.
we did short sales on people who didn't pay their mortgage for 5 years.
Right,
5 or
well,
6
Oh,
years.
I have cases right now with
That's
people
great.
who haven't made a payment since 2008.
Oh, man.
Yep.
And they're still,
Yep.
wow,
still
they're
out
still
there.
in the,
Yeah, they're not
So-
going away.
Those are the stranglers.
So now that brings up a new question, which is
Holy
of
cow.
interest. So they haven't been paying since 2008. Are there provisions in the note that says that if something like this happens, does interest keep compiling or does it
Yeah.
stop? So in other words, they're in one way, they're kind of sort of screwing themselves on one end because if it ever gets resolved, they're going to owe this much.
Yeah, but they'll never
More
pay
money.
it.
Never?
Pay it. Because the way The point I was trying to make with that is if the bank's really on their game, right, and you don't do anything, it's still going to take 6 months for them to foreclose, probably longer. If you do things, you get to a year, right? Your question with the interest, yeah, technically they owe the interest, right? But they haven't paid for 12 years.
I understand.
Are they going to pay the interest? No, the bank only has as collateral the property.
Correct.
Once they sell, they technically could sue you, but you're not paying.
But you're not going to pay. No.
Well, they have limitations.
and
on,
that's-
So
they
you
have
don't mind having
limitations
terrible
too.
credit, but a free house. I mean, that's the reality of what the people have been able to
I
do.
think
This is
another way
good.
of look. So if the property sells to a third party, you're great. It's good. But if the party sell, if it ends up reverting
Explain that
back-
part of it. I don't, because the
Okay,
people
so
want to
you-
know what that means.
So you go to foreclosure sale,
Right.
and it goes up to public auction, and there's a minimum bid. And if whoever is the highest bidder at the public auction gets the property, but if there's no bidder, it reverts back to the beneficiary of the deed of trust and the
Sure.
note holder. So then they're not in the real estate. They don't. They're a company. They don't have a family to put in a home, so they have to sell the home. So they have to go fix it up, make it marketable, which in my understanding costs tens of thousands of dollars. Now, I don't know this
Who,
personally.
the bank?
The bank, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then they put the property up for sale.
Yeah, they take a far greater loss.
Right. It's very
And-
expensive to foreclose. So basically, if you can't make your mortgage payment, the first thing I would do is I would contact the loan servicer and say, I need help. What can you help me? Can you give me a forbearance? I'm out of work. My new job doesn't start for a month or two. What can I do? And often they'll give you a forbearance. They might make you pay it later or tack it onto the loan.
If you're just forthcoming and you contact and reach out to them,
yeah.
they're
Oh, God,
far
yeah.
more receptive of
Yeah.
working with you by just reaching out to
Yes.
them.
Yes. Okay. So loan modification. If you're applying for a loan modification, there's a form that's called a request for mediation, mortgage assistance. It's called an RMA form. That's very typical. It asks you a lot of questions. It asks you for your personal information. It asks you about your income, your dependents.
What money do you have? Not
Your other
have
debts.
assets,
Like a
yeah.
regular
and
application.
it tries
Yeah,
to figure
yeah.
out your debt to income ratio, right? So, and I think the magic number is between 27 and 33%
Yeah.
of your mortgage. So if your mortgage payment is between 27 and 33%, you've hit the sweet spot. If it's lower than that, then it's like you should be able to pay your mortgage.
Yeah.
What's their problem? If it's more than that, then you're setting themselves up for an unaffordable payment.
Really? Okay.
Something that's I'm going to at least attempt to change the direction of what we're talking about, and hopefully relate to people that are listening that want to invest. So, back you started in 2013. So there's a couple of things here between 2013 and today, and where you see foreclosures going. That's one question. Where do you see foreclosures going? And number two is, do you see that it's going to be easier or more opportunity for people to invest that want to invest in foreclosures or those types of situations?
Invest in foreclosures. What do you mean?
Buy the foreclosures either on the steps from the banks, to be able to pick up deals.
So to clarify the topic, investing in real estate, but picking up titles through
Yeah,
foreclosures.
so from 2013 to now, and where you see foreclosures going, what opportunities do you see for people that may be listening in order to pick up deals in the market?
You know, I can tell you this. I am seeing a lot of the soft problems that happened right before the 2008 crash. I think right now there's forbearance. There's pretty much a federal forbearance on foreclosures is about to be lifted in the new year. You also have the student loan debt coming back where people are going to have to start paying their student loans back. And now with rising inflation, I think that there is going to be a significant increase of foreclosures next year. I don't know how that's going to affect the market. That's not my expertise, but I can't. Maybe somebody
No,
else
what's your
knows.
opinion? What's your opinion on it?
Yeah.
What do you think is going to happen?
I think there will be a lot more foreclosures. I think the
But
housing
what
market
about-
will slow down, if not go down.
But what about everyone that has all that
The
equity, in their
aren't they going
house?
to be selling?
Oh, that's me.
So
That's all
Hey,
of us.
it's fine. He has his
But
opinion.
it's-
no,
it's
I.
fine.
But I, and that is completely correct, and I agree with you. But the only thing I counter that with, that I keep on coming back to, which is that there's so much equity in
So-
these homes that even if people start down that road, they're able to cure it
Here's-
before it gets.
Okay, so here's
But-
the
but isn't supply
no,
and demand-
here's the reality of it. And,
But there's less than a
and-
month of homes on the
so-
market.
So just a second. Here's the reality of it. You get. Let's do what's common: husband and wife situation, partner situation,
Yeah.
life partner situation, and there's a falling out. I can see people just walking away from it, and then they're going to end up in foreclosure. Is it going to be a high percentage? No. But is it going to be a percentage that's going to walk away from the equity? Yeah, I think there is.
Let me ask you guys, if there is programs like this with this loan modification or forbearance that people have been on, versus, I'm just saying for future, you know what I mean? Why
Because
would it
even if you get put on a loan modification program, you still have to have a payment which you can afford to make, right? If let's say I have a $2,000 a month payment, and my income was $6,000, but now my bill and my income was $6,000. I have a $2,000 a month payment. Okay, that's 1/3 of your income. But before I was paying $2,000 in household expenses. Now I'm paying $3,000 in household expenses or more. When you see the shrinking gap between what you earn and what you have to pay, I can see people saying, I got to feed my kids, or I got to pay my mortgage. I got to drive to work, or I got to pay my mortgage. And that's when I think you're going to see the clash happen.
I would think that there would be more of a bankruptcy situation, right? Where it's like if you had, let's say that if people were in that position and they just can't do anything, you would have a high influx of people coming in with bankruptcy.
That's correct. But the problem with bankruptcy is it's the financial death penalty, right? Once you declare for bankruptcy, you are basically can't get credit for years.
But
right, and that makes your life it makes your life hell to go through bankruptcy.
Bankruptcy doesn't solve the problem that you just laid out.
But the average person out there thinks it does.
But
That's the thing. It's pitched that
it doesn't, because inflation is what he's talking about, is eating up. And so you can't bankrupt away inflation and how much you're having to pay at the grocery store and at the gas station and for everything else. You can't. Bankruptcy doesn't do anything.
Well,
about that.
and that's a whole nother.
Let me ask you a question. When you evict people, the management company, what's that do to their credit?
For the most, well, it depends. The only thing that it really affects is trying to get into a new rental.
Does it affect their credit score?
I would imagine slightly. Okay, but it's not
Not like a foreclosure.
not like
no,
it was.
it's not, or it's not like not paying your credit card bills and so on and so forth.
You're not in default.
It's totally different. Yeah, you're not in default. Again, the only thing that it really affects is you trying to get into the next place, and assuming that it shows up on your credit quick enough, which is another situation. You could have trouble going through what I'll call, property management companies, because that's really taboo. Those people end up having to find an individual investor who doesn't have the resources to do the background checks. They get into a place, they stay there for several years, and eventually the eviction falls off the credit and they're right back to where they were.
So what about what's the average person's credit look like that's getting evicted, though? Just curious. You have any idea?
I can tell you what the average credit looks like for a person who goes through bankruptcy and foreclosure.
Yeah, I imagine.
I don't know about eviction.
What's that look like?
I would imagine
Terrible.
Yeah.
I imagine not good.
So here's
Really?
Wait a second. So the reason that it's difficult to answer your question, because think about how this happens. When the person moves into the property, and when they buy the home, their credit is good, and something happens over the course of time to change that. If their credit goes bad, they get foreclosed on, or they get evicted. Those people aren't then looking at their credit to say, I wonder what happened over the past 2 years.
Where did I go wrong?
The point that you're trying to come back to, though, right? It's because, like Dan, we've talked about this repeatedly on the show. Is what about that fear about buying a house? Because what happens in the real estate market, right? But you got to live somewhere, so you're comparing the two, right? And it just seems in my mind that worst case scenario seems a lot better, although crappy, if you own the home versus if you rent. That's just like kind of what it seems like. So if you're afraid, well, where are you going to live?
Well,
if you're forking out the same rental payment.
First of all, the answer to the question is, yeah, it could be. And if you're talking about here in Vegas, it's potentially better to rent than it is to buy because of the diversity in the average mortgage payment for a house and the average rental price. They're actually in Vegas, there's quite a spread. So if you're in another area of the country, and I just happened to bring the figures today.
Let's get in the figures.
But anyway.
So look,
I tell this all the time. Look, at some point you got to walk away.
Yeah.
If the asset is toxic, if it's upside down, if it's upside down, you staying in the property for a longer period of time, you may get the short benefit of the free rent, but over time it's going to be very difficult for you to get back in the house.
100% agreed on that. Yeah. Just get it over with.
And my point is this, and this is the exact same mentality if you have an employee that isn't working out, the sooner you cut that employee
Yep.
off, the sooner they can get into an industry or into a job where it is going to work for
Yeah.
them. And the same thing with the house. If you're upside down in it, it's better, in my opinion, to get out of it now so that you can get into
yeah.
something that you can afford
Well,
and it's going to work
And
for
I want
you.
to be clear. And
So,
Same.
Dude, I was.
so I have a different take on what Remy said about bankruptcy, because I used to do personal loans for years and years and years with the largest company in the country, and we looked at bankruptcy just the opposite. Because here's the deal: once you bankruptcy and you've gotten rid of all the creditors and so on and so forth, guess what? You can't go bankrupt again for what is it, 7 years?
that's correct.
So you can go out and buy a new car. If you've got money down, they know that you can't go bankrupt
and I
on
don't
them.
disagree.
Let's go over and segue over to talk about property management
Holy
with
crap.
Mr. R. He's R squared over here.
R squared.
R squared. What's up, buddy? So let's
Hey.
talk about it.
Oh, everything is status quo, except it's really slowing down. It is. It's
Wait a second. December slowing down in the
December
housing
is slowing.
market?
I
What?
cannot believe it.
Wait,
But-
in December?
In December, unbelievable.
Huh.
Our Dan
What do you do,
Hamden-
Rick? Do you just like hang out and watch
we-
Gunsmoke or what?
we actually we just
Netflix and
sit-
chills.
Yeah, we just sit in the office and play cards all day. But no, you guys want a couple of stats. The rental market is still getting larger.
Yeah.
There's more properties available. The number of applicants have really dropped. Everybody's out shopping. It's just what's happening. We've gone down another
So is
4%.
July or December the slowest month?
So
Oh,
on.
December.
Oh, but that was with rentals.
But wait, here's something that's interesting that came up a couple of shows ago, and Joe brought it up again today. And yesterday, the NAR came out with a report on the difference between mortgages and rental payments. And so I looked at all over the country. They basically are homes, our population of over 200,000 is what they were looking at. And one of the things I want to tell you, there isn't any place in the country, metropolitan area, where rents are higher than the mortgage payments. Mortgage payments are always higher. And we were talking a couple of weeks ago about how the mortgage payment and the rental payments are getting closer and closer and closer together. Well, the actual statistics beg to differ, especially here in Las Vegas. So in Las Vegas, even though we had a 22% increase in sale prices, we had a 23% increase in rental prices. But at the same time, the rental prices are almost 50% less than mortgage.
Hold on, Brett. Will you get in that? Go ahead and get in that image just a little bit more, man. You're almost like hugging on him. So, like, there you go. Brett's over here. He's like, you're looking over his shoulder.
All right. So, but the point that I made many shows ago is that there are so many other areas in the country that are so much cheaper to move to, which again goes back to whether you sell and move, so on and so forth. And as an example, in Erie, Pennsylvania, the rental price is $1,000 and the mortgage price average is $1,200. There's only a $200 difference between the two.
I'm moving
Yeah,
to
but
Erie area.
in Erie?
But
in
if
Erie,
you have
where's it?
$1,000 a month,
It's kind of an eerie thought.
$1,000 a month in wood to heat your home.
Well,
That's the problem.
that's not the issue. So there's
and inflation comes in. And
there are a lot of places in the country where the mortgage payment and your rental rate are almost the same. They're only a few $100s off. And of course,
Yeah.
on the flip side, there are other metropolitan areas where, it's hugely different, where you'll have $1,500 for a rental, like in Burlington, South Burlington, Vermont, but you're paying over $3,200 for a mortgage. So you're paying a lot more to own. But
In Burlington, Vermont?
yeah,
Compare what's the rent there?
$1,500 to $3,100.
Jeez.
Wow.
Okay, so
It's a college town, though, too.
But so the point being again is it's all relative to where you live, and we've had that discussion 1,000 times here. And if you get caught in a tough spot, there's always opportunity to move outside of your current area into some place where you can afford.
I mean, I've done that
Moved
all
to
my
Pahrump.
all my life, right? I moved. I went to law school in northern Idaho, right? Which I could have gone to Southern California, but I was like, money, do the math, right? I lived in Yerington, Nevada for 2 years. Got to do a clerkship, 3,000 people. So. You can save money, and you don't have to be stuck there forever. You just make this decision. But people
just got to sacrifice. I know.
People want everything now.
So
that's the problem.
So when we moved here, we came from Southern California, and I was living in an 800 square foot house, and at that point in time, that property was worth $145,000.
And you sold it for 900?
No, I didn't sell it for 900 because I didn't keep it. But at the time that we moved here. Had a house built that was over 2,000 square feet that was brand new on up in the lakes, nice area, for $145,000, same price. So again, just what Joe said, we moved here, and at that point in time, I was thinking that we were downgrading, even though we were getting a brand new house, simply because of the area. You know, it wasn't L.A.
And what's interesting about it, I mean, I'm a Nevadan. Born and raised here, right? And the entire time, we've always had people from California because they've always had higher real estate sell and move my entire life, right? And all the Nevadans complain a bitch about it because, like, coming in here,
they always have,
and they're kind of envious about the fact that you were able to sell that much. But
they do. So they do really complain about Californians coming.
Do they always have?
Oh yeah. Oh
really?
Yeah. Yes.
Dude.
We don't like Californians, Dan.
Dude, in Wisconsin.
But I mean, what are some of the challenges? Are that they don't? It's hard to move, so they come here to rent before they buy a mortgage, right?
Yes, there's quite a few that come here, and if they've sold, especially if they've sold, they've got a lot of money. And like I said in the past, they'll put down a year's worth of rent and wait to see how the valley really is.
Yeah.
And we all know the people that live here that the valley on one side compared to the other side can be totally different, and it depends on the amenities that you're looking for. And so they come here, they rent, and they figure out what's going on in the valley, and then they go and pick a spot.
How slow is it right now, though? It's a slow market, isn't it?
It's slow.
Yeah, it's slow. I mean, it's eking. So average rents, real quick, throw it out there.
Average rents haven't moved in the past 30, 60 days. They're still the average, and where I'm talking when I say average, we're talking about a studio all the way up to being out at Lake Las Vegas. You're looking at about $1,750 a month.
Is it a premium for Lake Las Vegas? Just curious before I jump over to Brett.
Yeah.
Okay, how much is somebody that
just
pays,
the HOA alone?
How much does somebody pay in rent up there?
$8,000 plus.
$8,000 a month?
Yeah. But the places are huge.
Yeah, I mean, they're huge, and they're on the lake or a golf course. I mean,
do you know the amount of home that you can buy with an $8,000 mortgage? You're probably looking at like
this is a city
$1.5 million
home. But this
home.
is a city that can get away with that because, say you rent it out because you have executives that are coming to town and they need to stay for 2 or 3 months at a time.
I've been up there. $8,000 to me, I'm not paying $8,000.
But what's it matter if you have a multi-million-dollar company? And it's just like business expense. I'm just saying that situation is created in Vegas multiple times over.
So here's the point. There aren't
basically
there aren't a lot of available rental properties in that price bracket or out there at Lake Las Vegas. You were just asking me what it rents for. I told you.
Yeah.
So
by default,
we only have 1 or 2 out there, and
I just feel it's overpriced. I do.